So I want to talk to you today about this idea that small steps bring big faith. I was thinking about Peter stepping out of the boat onto the water with Jesus, and it made me think a little bit about our faith walks. Sometimes we think that we have to make huge leaps, make big decisions to show evidence of faith, right? Maybe it's quitting a job, maybe it's moving halfway across the country, or something traumatic to show big faith. But that's not really necessarily the case. It's the small steps in life that build big faith. And for Peter, specifically in this instance, in Matthew chapter 14, we see that Jesus sends his disciples out into the water and says, "Wait for me." And he goes off and prays, and it's night, and the waves are hammering the boat, it's rough seas, and then all of a sudden they see what they think is a ghost. I'll read the passage to you. Verse 26 on says, "When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. 'It's a ghost,' they said, and they cried out in fear. Immediately Jesus spoke to them, 'Have courage, it is I. Don't be afraid.'" And this is what I love. Here's what Peter says in response to this. He says, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you onto the water." And Jesus said, "Come." So Peter simply recognized Jesus out on the water, and he asked, "If it's you, tell me to come." And Jesus says that. He says, "Come." And so Peter does, and he steps out onto the water. Peter didn't need to have the full plan of how this was going to work out. Peter didn't need to know how to walk on the water. He needed to have his eyes fixed on Christ. And for some of us right now, we may be in a season right now where we're saying, "I just don't feel ready." Well, you probably will never feel ready. Maybe it's, "Well, I don't have enough finances. I don't have enough time. My life is just too chaotic." Friends, if you're waiting for life to be less chaotic, you're never going to take small steps. Jesus asked Peter to step out of the boat in the midst of the chaos, the winds hammering that boat. And what's so unique about this account is when Peter stepped out, he was on the water. You see, Peter didn't start to sink until he took his eyes off of Jesus and started paying attention to the waves and the wind, the distractions, the things that hammer us every day. We need to be a people who take steps of faith, and let them be small steps. They don't have to be huge and traumatic steps, but small steps. Maybe that small step for you today is stepping back into church. Maybe it's been years since you've been in church, and it's time for you to get back into church. Maybe it's forgiving somebody that you've not been able to forgive. Maybe Jesus is calling you to open the Word and get into the Word so you don't feel so distant from Him. Whatever it is, today is a day to choose to take a small step of obedience that will build bigger faith later in your life. Because it is those small steps that help us grow. Remember that when Peter took his eyes off of Jesus and he began to sink, Jesus reached out his hand for him. See, no matter what small steps you take, no matter how terrifying it might be, if you feel like you're sinking, Jesus is never going to let you sink. He's going to reach his hand out and help you. So today I encourage you, just ask yourself, what is a small step of faith I can take today that will grow bigger faith for tomorrow? And if this encouraged you today, share it with somebody else, and may God bless you.